Hi, I'm Rick Weatherald, elite coach with Athletes on Track and pro mountain biker for the Subaru Sun and Ski race team. Today we're out here to take a look at the Pace Bend course and see what can make a difference in your race. The start at Pace Bend is a slightly uphill dirt road about 1.5 minutes long. Now, despite it being an open road, the pack generally establishes itself into a double pace line pretty quickly, so it makes big passes difficult. Because of this, the first 50 meters is very important, so practice getting off the line fast on the loose gravel and getting clipped in as quick as possible. Now, the pacing on the start can be pretty tricky. If you go all out all the way up the start straightaway until the woods, it's likely that you'll go too hard and blow up and end your race right there. If you go a nice steady pace, it's likely that you'll be getting passed by a lot of people and going into the woods a lot further back than you want to be. So up this whole start straightaway, think about racing for position rather than racing for time. In other words, don't worry about how fast you're going, just worry about where you sit in the pack. Basically what you want to do is figure out your goal finish place. You can go into the woods about 5 places down from that goal finish place. So if your goal is a top 5 finish, it's okay to go into the woods about 10th place. Now, if you get a bad jump off the line and you're in a real bad position going up the start straightaway, there are 2 places where you can try to go outside the pack or inside the pack and make up some time. One is the left-hand sweeper we just went through about 10 seconds ago, and the second one is a right sweeper followed by a slight uphill that's seen right here. Now, coming into this, the pack will generally funnel to the left side of the road, so you want to be on the right side and get ready to cut right going up that hill to go around as many people as you can. You'll have to re-accelerate hard here, so again, bide your effort and just watch how hard you're going because you got a long race in front of you. So once you're done with the start straightaway right up here and you cut onto the single track, just switch into cruise control mode and work on saving as much energy as you can while holding the wheel of the rider in front of you. Now, a few miles into the trail, you'll come up on this feature right here. It's a ledge, it's about 1.5 feet tall, and it's got a little root going across the sweet spot on the left. The ledge is preceded by a right-hand sweeper corner and has a slight uphill coming into it. The ground has plenty of traction on the approach. Now, some riders might be intimidated by this obstacle, but in reality, if you can do a simple wheelie, you can get up this ledge. Now, the best line has a root going across it about halfway up, so it takes away your traction and you can't come in slow and pedal up it. Instead, take a few hard pedal strokes right out of the corner and use your momentum to lift you up the ledge. Now, if you're comfortable throwing the wheelie, go ahead and pull the front wheel up and put it on the root that's halfway up the ledge. From there, your momentum will carry you up over the top. Now, if you're not clearing this ledge at least 50% of the time in practice, just plan ahead and dismount early as you're coming up to it. You don't want to come to a stop right as you hit the ledge and then dismount. If you dismount early and then remount smooth, it's just as fast. Now, a few miles later, there's an open section of long, fast straightaways. At the end of one of these long straightaways, there's a right-hand corner. It looks sharper than it is when you're coming into it, but once you get through the corner, you always see that you could have held all your speed. Here's that corner right here. The corner is followed by a slight uphill that's pretty rough, and it'll slow you down quite a bit if you don't get in the right gear. Now, you want to grab about 2 downshifts as you're coming into that corner so that you can pedal over the top or you get bogged down like Amy did here. Now, you see Josh is going to come into this corner real fast. He's probably not going to use any brake at all because the corner is barely a corner at all. He's also going to grab about 2 downshifts right here, and you can see he holds all his momentum going up these 2 little rough uphills. So there's no real secret here. Just come into the hill fast and grab a couple downshifts before you get on the rough part. Now we're going to take a look at what most will say is the hardest climb on the course. It's got 2 ledges that are pretty much back to back, and you've been coming uphill into them for a little while. So you'll be pretty tired after you hit the first ledge, and then the second ledge here, you're really going to be on the rivet. So let's break it down and look at the first ledge first. There's 2 lines, one straight on the left side of the trail, and then one right here where you have to cut back right to go up a little bit smoother line. Now the straight line on the left is a little faster, but also takes a little bit more energy to get up and to get re-accelerated afterwards. Now to hit the line on the right, you'll have to come into the corner a little slower, but it is a little smoother and takes a little bit less energy to clear. Now I think most riders will be better off taking the smoother line on the right because it will help you preserve a little bit of energy, which you can use to help you get up and over the next ledge, which is coming up about 50 feet further up the hill. Now let's look at the second ledge feature that will top out the climb. There's one easier line going on the right and one line that's harder and a little bit faster if you go straight up the left side. Now the faster left line is just like hopping up a giant curb. You got to try to get as much speed as you can get coming up the hill into it and then pop a big wheelie. As soon as your front wheel hits the ground, then pull up on your back wheel to clear it. Now to take the line on the right, you'll want to rest up coming into it so you can take a few hard pedal strokes right before the ledge. The ledge really isn't that big, so if you come into it with some momentum and just keep pedaling, you'll clear it. So now let's take a look at that whole climb with two features back to back. When you put them back to back and you realize that you're already at the top of a climb, you can see why taking the right line at the bottom is a little bit better because it conserves some energy. You'll be wanting that energy right here when you take the right line again because you'll want to get some hard pedal strokes to clear the feature. Now a little while later on the course, after a nice fun open downhill section, you'll come into the woods here up on a section that's got a pretty steep drop off and a right hand turn followed by a kind of a technical climb that can cause people challenges, especially in traffic. Now the dropout may look daunting as you're rolling up to it, but because it's not that high and it's got a clean rollout, it's really not too difficult to clear. Now you can see the climb right around the corner here means you want to make sure and grab some downshifts before you get there. Now you can see here that you can roll right off this drop without pulling up at all, and there's no danger of catching a chainring, so you can go as slow as you want off that drop. Now the key here is going to be to grab as many downshifts as you can before you go off the drop off to help you clear the climb that's right around the corner, because you'll have a tough time shifting in this little area in between. Now as long as you're in the right gear, there's no real trick to going up this hill. There's not a specific line that you need to take. Just make sure you got downshift, get the front wheel light, and put some power to the pedals. Now I had planned on getting some great video of a start to finish shot of the entire new North by Northwest section that everybody's talking about that's in the race this year. However, for whatever reason, the camera decided it wanted to get a little foggy, so the shot isn't quite as quality as I wanted it to be. If you search the Timber Forum, there's actually a better video of this entire section going around. I'm still going to show the video and take the time to talk about some tire selection and other bike setup that you can do that's specific to this Pace Bend race. Now, even if you've never ridden at Pace Bend, you could watch this video and tell that the trail is pretty rocky. In fact, the day I was out filming, I cut a tire that I actually thought to be a fairly durable tire. It was just an unlucky hit on the front wheel. So you really want to leave the real lightweight like S-Works or super light Schwalbe tires at home. You need some good sidewall and good solid casing. That doesn't necessarily mean you need a big tough tread. Just the casing and the sidewall need to be strong enough to withstand cuts from rocks. Now if you want to get really specific about it, I think a front tire, a good front tire for this course would be something that had a little bit bigger knobs on the shoulders, and then a good rear tire would be something that didn't have as quite a big a knob on the shoulder. Now the reason for that is that there are plenty of fast, loose corners at Pace Bend where you can lose traction pretty easy. Now with the taller shoulder knobs, you'll tend to lose traction a little bit less, and the shorter ones you'll lose traction more. So if you come into a corner a little hot, you'd rather lose your rear end before you lose your front end. So if you've got taller shoulder knobs on the front and shorter on the rear, what'll happen if you come into a corner too hot is that you'll start to lose the back wheel, which is a recoverable slide. If you start to fold over the front end, most of the time that ends up in a crash. Now a good example of a tire that would be good for the rear that has short shoulder knobs would be something like a Continental Race King or a Kenda Small Block 8. Since it's the rear tire, you don't need to be hooking up as much side to side, and the fast rolling resistance that those tires provide can help on this course. Now I definitely wouldn't run those tires in the front because the course is a little bit too loose for either of those. Something like a Specialized Fast Track or a Maxxis Crossmark, for example, there's a bunch of other ones too, would be really good for this course. Now, as far as tire pressure, it's obvious here. There's lots of rocks and even some roots that you'll be banging into. You can't run real low pressure for fear of pinching, so whatever you take your normal pressure at, I would kick it up by 3 or 4 psi, especially in the rear, to prevent pinch flats. Now, the other thing I want to address here is your front and rear suspension setup. Pacebend is a unique course because it's real pedal intensive on the flat, fast straightaways, but you also need a lot of bump sensitivity for these small to medium sized rocks that you're going to be going over. So despite being there's some big hits that you're going to take from big rocks and big drop-offs and stuff, I wouldn't bump up the preload pressure any. You need the suspension to remain sensitive over all this stuff. Likewise, I would back off on any pedal platform or brain platform adjustments that you have and make those at a minimum, especially on the fork. Now, as far as rebound settings, if you have a rebound adjustment, I would actually speed it up just a bit, despite there being a couple hard hits. If you speed up the rebound, it'll keep the fork and the shock further out in the travel and give you more available travel to hit each successive hit. And last, we'll talk about just the general approach to your pacing strategy during the race. Now, on paper, this race will look just about an average time and average distance for the normal timber races for whatever class you may be in. However, this course is more demanding than most because it's flat and rough and you're constantly having to get yourself back up to speed, sometimes over the rough stuff like we're looking at right here on the North by Northwest section. This course is really challenging and really energy intensive, so you really want to remember that when you're going really hard early in the race. If you crack even late in the race, it'll show big time and you'll lose a lot of time because some of the roughest sections are towards the end of the lap and you need a lot of energy to get through here. If you don't have a lot of energy, you're going to be going really slow through this North by Northwest section. So get off the start line aggressively, but settle into long race cruise control pretty quickly and conserve as much energy as you can. If you have a lot left in the tank, your last lap on this North by Northwest section, you can really make up a lot of time by dropping the hammer and reeling in your competitors that use too much energy early on. So that's it. Now, as always, if you have any questions, contact me via email, rickweatherald@gmail.com, or just hunt me down at the venue on Saturday or Sunday. I'll see y'all at the races.